Hello everyone, today we're taking a look at the FlyWoo FlyLens85. It's a bi-blade micro synwhoop as we've continued to see this kind of micro synwhoop sort of category develop. And I have some thoughts to kind of sum up this category that if you want to see them, just jump to the end of the video. The FlyLens85 comes in several different varieties. We've got Analog, HD0, Walk Snail. We've got Wasp, which is using the Vista/RunCam Link, so the previous iteration of the DJI FPV video system, as well as the O3 Lite, which is what I have here, but I had to provide my own O3 and then do the Lite kit install, as well as the full-sized HD. So all the camera and all the weight. I don't recommend that because micros are so sensitive to weight, but purchase what you like. We're going to go into the one that I have here, the O3. This is the one, if you're going to do the O3 and this particular quad, this is the one I recommend because I found the process of decasing and reapplying it and installing inside the case on the FlyLens to be more effort than I thought it was worth in savings. Now, if you, of course, O3s are not cheap. If you have one on hand spare to use, and you can buy the $25 FlyWoo naked kit, then albeit, but this is something that I was looking at going, man, I could have saved myself an hour worth of time just having the ready-to-made Lite version already installed. But as you can see here, you can get it as a bind and fly for DJI, which means that you can use the remote control too. FrSky XM Plus. Express LRS, which is the one I have, TBS Crossfire as well, and then they also have a version that comes pre-installed with the GM10 GPS module. So if you're going to be needing GPS for data purposes or recovery purposes, that is available. One other thing to call out down here, they do have an ND filter set, so if you're into cinematic and you want to get the best possible stillest image, I do recommend the ND filter set because, as we'll see in this video, it does help. The all-in-one flight controller is the Goku Versatile F405. That is a 1 and 2S all-in-one with a 12 amp ESC on there, and the Express LRS can be updated independent of Betaflight. So just kind of how we see in modern day technologies now. Express LRS is broken away from Betaflight. This is a pusher configuration, and it has 2015 bi-bladed props. The motors are Robo branded, so FlyWoo's brand of 1002. 14,800 kV in purple and gold. These are our DJI antennas. This is our Express LRS antenna. As in the case with most synwhoops, we have almost no camera protection whatsoever, so be careful. Another area I'm concerned about as far as durability is if you have a searing blow down here, how well will this plastic hold up, protecting our very valuable, expensive, naked DJI O3 air unit. Camera platform has got these little tiny soft gummies. Base layer is carbon fiber because, well, we've seen other companies do plastic and various other things. Motor wires are held on by these little clips, and I'm not sure if these are 3D prints or if those are plastic molded. They kind of feel like they might be plastic molded. Of course, we have prints that hold our antennas as well as prints that hold our battery. And as you can see there, this particular battery holder is for a 750 milliamp battery, but I did find a 660 as well as an 850 from G&B will also fit. It comes with another battery holder that is for a 1000 milliamp. But I don't have any 2S batteries that big, and I found that 850 gave me less flight time than 750. The FlyWoo FlyLens weighs just about 78 grams. In the flights you're going to see on this video, I used the G&B 720 milliamp 2S battery, and with that battery it brings the weight up to almost 115 grams. As I said previously, the 850, it could be just my 850s, but I have 4 of them, and they all gave me less flight time than the 750s. Faster, slow, less flight time with the 850s. And with the 850s, it comes in at 113.5 grams. So it's curious, these 850s actually weigh less than the 720s. Something's not right. Looks like the carbon fiber is 2¼ millimeters. Kind of a weird size, but that's what I'm getting. And motor post to motor post, I'm getting about 93 millimeters. Not a full and complete weight change as far as going with the O3, but I did want to weigh the metal components that I know that I pulled off, because you do have to use some of the screws, maybe different screws, in order to mount it inside the FlyWoo. So I don't have everything out here that you don't use, but you're going to save at least 12.5 grams by going naked. And FlyWoo always sends a bunch of extra screws, although some of these are probably from the naked kit as well, but I just put them all back together. So you might not see all of these if you just get the O3 Lite already built in. FlyWoo did go ahead and send a couple extra LEDs, but I'm going to be perfectly happy with blue. But for samples, they also sent red and pink. I'm sure my girls would like pink. We get an extra set of props. We get a little wire map for that F405 flight controller. If you're curious, this is pretty much what the instructions say for building your naked O3 or your Lite O3. But they do have a video on their website. I'd recommend that. It's also linked on their YouTube channel. They sent along a little hex Allen key as well as a Phillips screwdriver. This is the previously mentioned 1000 milliamp 2S battery holder. And you can see it uses kind of a twist lock. Look at this. They sent a very unique USB cable. I've seen right angle adapters, but never a cable with a right angle. And it's got the long nose on there. And last but not least, we get one little sticker. Alright, I'm going to bring the volume down on that flight audio. Again, flight audio is not recorded on the O3. It is recorded on a secondary camera that's sitting on the table in front of me. And I really, I said this in the last video with the Defender 16. I really like this format. I think it makes much better use of your time. I'm always worried about my videos getting too long and things getting lost and just being boring or something like that, because at the very least, if you watch one of my videos, I would like you to enjoy the time you spent, even if you're not, looking at this product in any capacity. You clicked on the video because you had some time, so some enjoyment, whether it's just pleasant or fun or funny or humorous or bad, whatever sort of entertainment and enjoyment you get from the videos, I hope that they do bring a little bit to the time that we share on the video. So I think making good use, doing the inside and outside flight kind of as all one, although I do have samples I am going to show you of more details when it comes to flying and my experience and my time flying this quad. So one of the things that I was surprised about, or I should say, first of all, this is with Rocksteady or EIS on, so that does some stabilization right there on the camera. We are watching the video recorded directly on the VTX, so no video breakup or anything like that. And yes, that person that is sitting over the cabana is our 14-year-old daughter. 15, sorry, she had a birthday. She just got done taking the ACT. She's only a sophomore, but she has high academic aspirations, and she wanted to take the ACT and all the other tests that schools may or may not be using in the future as many times as she could to get as much practice. So, yeah, she's chilling out in the cabana, and she is not bothered by my flying at all. So back to the flight. So flying it inside and outside, showing you the volume inside. That's kind of the loudest it's going to be because you get a lot of echo effect from the house and the hardwood floors and things of that nature. And so when you're outside, the thing I think most people want to look at is, one, how does it handle wind, which is pretty light on this day, 7 miles an hour, but 7 miles an hour from day to day isn't always equal. I've had 7 mile an hour winds that would, like on a similar style of quad, would feel like it was pushing me around. And sometimes 7 mile an hour winds just had no impact on the same sort of quad or even an unprop protected quad. It has a lot to do with the wind direction and how steady that is, because they might register a 7 mile an hour wind and it might just be a gradual puff every once in a while. But anyways, so FlyWoo did something different. They went with bi-blades. They went with 2-inch. They went with a mix of carbon fiber as well as the molded plastic that is an independent sort of piece to the quad. So if you were to break your carbon, or not your carbon, sorry. If you break your carbon or your prop protection, those can both be replaced separately. They're not all built into one. So the repairability of this one is somewhat higher than others. I would think that this durability would also be a little bit higher than we've seen in others, although I thought the iFlight Defender 16 and the ridiculous crashes that I had with it weren't very nice or fair. I thought it held up relatively well to where I could repair that with just some glue, which I'm actually in the process of doing still. Well, probably not. As we watch this, I'm probably on a trip with my family. But as I sit here recording this, I do have some glue on it that is drying. So I thought this one, as far as the stabilized footage goes, and the lacquer jello or the minimization of jello is really good. Also, on their website, they do have the ability to add mounts to your order for external HD mounts. Of course, the community oftentimes will kind of remix their own for various things. So if you wanted to carry a naked GoPro or an Insta360 Go or Go 2 or Go 3, I think the Go 3 is coming out, or it did come out. Maybe I missed it. So they have the option on this particular one to fly an external HD camera, which you may want to do, which is an option that I don't think we saw on the others in this category that we've seen. And by others, I'm thinking of the Mobile 8. I'm thinking of Pavo Pico. I'm thinking of the Defender 16 as well as the FlyLens85. I am flying the G&B 720 milliamp battery, which is the heavier battery between the 720 and the 850. What the heck is that all about? There has got to be something going on as far as how they're labeling these batteries, because that doesn't make any sense. And when I sit here and look at them, I'm not measuring them with my calipers or anything like that. They look very, very similar in size and shape. And a matter of fact, the 720 might be a touch longer when you count the end wrapping of the wires. But yeah, that's so you might want to try, if you want to get longer flight time and you have G&B batteries, or you have G&B batteries readily available from your shops. The 720 is a good one. I wouldn't bother with the 850 because of what we described already, but FlyWoo also has some batteries you might want to try. Inside flight ended, so we're going to jump into the DVR or goggle footage of that same flight, but this is just the end so that you can get an idea, just as I said in the last video. I'm sorry to repeat myself. Battery voltage, the throttle position in the top left. You could also see the fly time, which is down in the bottom right. And you can also see various statistics across that bottom row about our battery or electronic consumption, and you can get a gauge on that. I do fly the batteries below 3.5 volts per cell, and then when I disarm or land and disarm, the batteries do recover. So what I spend a good portion of my first few flights doing is trying to gauge how much it recovers. There's our middle child there. Her brother is off at college, but this is the same flight we've already seen. It's just the last, I think it's 2 minutes, so we got about another minute of this to watch. I was talking about the batteries, and the FlyWoo battery, the 750, gave me just about the same flight time as the G&B 27. Plus, well, I think the FlyWoo actually, because I only had one to test, the FlyWoo 750 gave me about 11 seconds more on average than the G&B 720. So if you're going for max flight time, that's something to note. If you're going to the FlyWoo website to pick up one of these, you might want to grab 1 or 2 or 3 or however many batteries you desire in order to accomplish the amount of flight time that you want to get to. Otherwise, you can pick up G&B batteries all over the place. There might be other batteries that can fit. I did go down to a 550. They're pretty loose in the holder, so be careful about using a 550. The 660s from G&B, they also work pretty well. The 550 from Tattoo, again, it was a little bit loose, so I would shove a slice of foam in there or put some extra tape or something. I prefer foam because it keeps the weight down, but whatever you have to do to firm up that battery, you don't want that battery sliding around on you. Okay, so the goggle footage that we're looking at has come in. 524 in the flight time. Our battery is going to remain a little bit below the 3.5 volts per cell. That is kind of my golden spot, but not much, 3.48. By the time we unplug the O3 from it, we'd probably get 3.5 volts. Okay, in this flight segment, we're just going to look at a part of it here, because what I've done is I'm just going to be flying outside, so not a mix and match, but I have the ND filters from FlyWoo on here. Now, unfortunately, I didn't apply it correctly, because if you look in the top right, we're getting some of that mirroring effect. I didn't have it square on. That's a rookie mistake, and a complete amateur, which I am an amateur. I don't get paid to fly or anything like that. No one hires me for this sort of stuff, but I think we can still take a lot from this in looking at the stabilized view, especially if you're at a computer and you're watching this on 2 different screens. You can watch the different flight segments and take a look at the stability, get your face up close or play it in slow-mo in some way. I wanted to do this, and I wanted to use this flight because it's on the same day that I showed you the other flight footage from. I didn't want to, start over with a new day and a new flight, because I didn't review this footage on this particular day, so I didn't know that I had made that mistake of not getting the ND filter square on. And it's pretty easy to do. as far as mess it up, but I think if we just take that 5 seconds to make sure that we have applied the ND filter, we can look around the edge, and I'll show you this back at the desk. We can kind of just look at the camera and tell whether we've gotten it on all the way or not. It's pretty simple, just kind of rotate it 360 just to kind of look around the edges. This is that mirroring that we have in the top right hand corner, that's my fault. That segment above the trees up there actually was a pretty good shot to give you a gauge of wind impact and how it impacts the footage that comes from this. So like I said earlier, we don't have a lot of wind this particular day, 7 miles an hour, but if you looked up at those trees that I was flying through, those leaves were moving around a fair bit. That's something to consider. As we go back up to the tree, it's not blowing a gale, but it's definitely not a calm, still day. Having a calm, still day, well, actually getting something 6 to 7 miles an hour in my area is relatively rare, especially in the middle of the day. Usually it's early morning or late evening when you start to get those lower miles an hour, if you get them at all. It's not unusual for us to have 20 to 25 mile an hour common days. But yeah, we pretty much always have wind. We do have the impact of my backyard reviews of having trees, homes, the neighborhood, all kind of breaking down that wind impact on the quad, but it's still present there. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to see it with the ND filter so that you could diagnose the amount of footage movement that you might see. Okay, here is our more aggressive flight. No ND filter, no EIS or Rocksteady turned on, and this is our goggle view. So this is, by all accounts, this is flying it against its design scope or design intent, but it's something that I like to do because sometimes you find out things fly pretty dang nicely, even though they weren't designed for this. And I have to say that about the FlyLens85. It flies nice when you're flying it like this. I could do all the things I would want to do with any old quad. I'm carrying an 03 Lite on here so I can get that 4K footage right off the VTX. I've got the reception, the quality of the reception, the image quality that many people would want in a 85mm package running 2-inch props on a 2S battery. Do big punch outs over the house, little punch outs over trees and bushes, flips and rolls. I'm sure you can do lots of other things if you have the skill set, but my skill set is, I would say my skill set's still relatively rudimentary for someone who's been flying as long as I have. Developing those freestyle flights, tricks, isn't something I spend a lot of time on. I just enjoy the flights that I do. And then when I don't fly for review, I don't think I need to go out and grind on a new trick. I appreciate the people that do have that sort of not only skill set but desire to build that skill set. That's a positive characteristic for one to have as well. I guess maybe my age just doesn't push me to do those things quite as much as other people do. But this is, I hate to say it, but this is a ridiculously good flyer in a freestyle or faster sort of format that also has the ability to fly inside your house, nice, smooth, and slow. And I'll go back to the footage that was real slow. I thought that footage was very, very stable. There wasn't a whole lot of movement in it, even with the slight amount of winds. And then when you put the ND filter on there, especially as I'd come and go in and out of the house, look at those vertical lines of that doorway in and out of the house. That was one area where I thought I could see some movement caused generally by the sunlight. So we put that ND filter on there, and bingo bango, it goes away. Or at least it went away to my eyes. I'll leave that for you to diagnose. Yes, Mr. Squirrel can't even be bothered by my flying. My neighbor came out the flight before this. The fireman that lives next door, he came out and he was just watching for a while. I wish I had a second set of goggles, but I don't. So I need to get him out in the goggles in some a different setting like analog or walk snail or HD0 and show him what it's like being in the goggles. See if he gets dizzy or doesn't enjoy it as much. But he was certainly impressed as he stood there. They were out getting ready to do some yard work. They stood around and watched. They said they could see it with the LEDs on there. They said it actually helped, even outside in a sunny environment and flying clear across the yard, that the LED lights help pick it up. So if you like to fly in a parking garage, those LED lights might come in handy. They are assigned to a switch, so mine currently are set to be on when I'm armed. You could save, of course, a little bit of battery life if you didn't use them at all. And wait if you took them out. Okay, so our faster flight ended 3 minutes and 19 seconds. Again, 720 milliamp 2S GNB battery, and the battery has already recovered to 3.58 volts per cell. All right, the first thing is, the pie in the face. Knucklehead goes out on the same day, trying to put together a nice video, and he doesn't get his ND filter on there. So let's see if I can do it here. There we go. See, one thing I didn't do is I didn't look. Hopefully you can see that around all the edges to make sure it was fully seated. They have some sort of something on the inside to make it grip the lens. And so you have the ability to kind of get things at an angle. Hopefully that comes through on camera. So you can get things at an angle. You don't want that. You want the ND filter to be all the way on, nice and flush. That way you don't end up suffering what I did with my footage. But I wanted to go over that. ND filter, in my opinion, of course, you should make up your own. Always make up your own opinion. But if you're asking me, I thought the ND filter took care of what little camera movement or a video movement that I could see in the video. But again, do your own comparison. I still think it's very curious that the 720 weighs more than the 850, but we've covered that. I've beat that over the head. But it boggles my mind how companies can get their labeling wrong. Oh, jeez. Anyways, okay. So I alluded to this earlier. This is my favorite flyer in this category. It just flew really nicely. But that doesn't mean you should run out and buy one. All right? So let's go over my concerns with my favorite flyer. One is I don't think I did a very good job of making my DJI-03 naked and mounting it. As you can see there's a bowing to it, and when it sits, it doesn't sit very flat. It kind of tips because it's sitting on this rather than the 4 posts at the corners as intended. So I may not have assembled this just right. There is a holster. I don't know. Let me get a flashlight out, see if you can see it. Can you see that right down there? Can't really point to it, but kind of down by this finger here, there is a 3D printed holster that runs across the all-in-one that holds our cables. And I think it's a nice design touch. My concern is how well it works. Long term, you can see I've got this wire out here. That's my camera cable. And I've got it fished back through that little holster and then back around up to my light. I think that's something that you need to be careful of as well. I would prefer to take a zip tie, but it's so tedious to get in there because of this mounting and everything, and get your camera where it's supposed to be. Get a zip tie in there to pinch it together and zip tie it to that 3D print. That 3D print also holds the capacitor as well as the little connector that goes to the LED light kit. So if you wanted to swap out the LEDs, it's just a matter of disconnecting them and plugging in a new one and routing it around the frame. Of course, I mentioned to do it at the end of the frame. The LED lights are consuming a tiny bit of battery life, so if you wanted the absolute most battery life or flight time, strip that out to strip some weight. That also takes care of a touch of the battery being consumed by that as well, but the 03 is consuming far more than that. The video to make your 03 unit light I thought was pretty good. They did a nice job being pretty detailed on that. This is pretty much the max camera angle that you're going to get, and it was the camera angle that I was flying in the more aggressive flight because the back of the naked camera mounting does hit on this U-shaped holder up here. So if you saw vibrations or something in the footage, it might have been because this is angled all the way back and touching against that. That's the maximum camera angle that we can get. We can also see we've got some mount points up here, and then if we go to their website, I kind of misstated. I thought they might have some naked GoPro mounts, but it doesn't look like they do. But they do have thumb mounts as well as Go 3, Go 1, and Go 2, and Hawkeye. Oh yes, Hawkeye released a camera in that same sort of format. So if you're a creative sort of person and you're going to maybe design your own print, keep in mind that you've got these 3 mount points that you can use, but your USB port does stick up a little bit, so you're going to need to have some clearance there. And that brings me to another point. Say you break this and you don't have a 3D printer to print another one and you don't want to go buy one. Your only other option, as far as I can tell, is to run a battery strap through here from side to side, and then your battery runs front to back, which I don't think is ideal. So what else do you do? Well, let's take this out. I had this out once. This might take me a second. Here we go. You don't have a lot in here in order to be able to use this. So you can't really go front to back. I mean, you've got this little loop that you can throw in here. So if you wanted to go right next to the USB port underneath this little piece of carbon to be able to still what I call toilet tank your battery, you could do that, but there's a little bit of carbon and it's going to always be pulling forward because that's its only point, because your battery is going to be bigger than this area that the strap is under. You know, it could work in desperate times, but it's not something that I would recommend. Hopefully you can find someone to print you a couple of these real cheap, or if you buy one, you know, buy a couple extras. I mentioned it previously, but you know, again, to drive home, my concern with the durability of this is primarily protecting our O3. This is plastics. It feels to be the same plastic as this prop protection. And if you were to be flying along and you just hit something metal super hard right down here, how well is it going to hold up? I don't know. You know, I had some minor crashes in the grass where, you know, I just wasn't on the throttle enough, or I clipped a tree and kind of spun or something like that. Really nothing that is worth even showing you because it was all so minor. And that's my concern, is overall durability. So I in some regards, I like it when I crash things really hard, because that then tells us, you know, okay, that won't survive that sort of crash, or it gets damaged on that sort of crash. I didn't have any crashes that I thought would yield any damage, and you know, it's fine. As far as this mounting goes, it's one interesting thing to draw out about this. We do have these brass fittings, but these screws go all the way through this metal standoff. They go through your prop protection, which I think, well, technically, it just goes through the metal standoff because the standoff is inside the prop protection. And then it goes down into those brass press-fitted nuts that hold this plastic cage down in here. Oh, something else that indicates that I didn't do this right. So I have access to my USB port, if you can see that right here, but I don't really have access to my SD card. So that makes me think that this is probably supposed to be up a little bit more. If I can get the angle, I think this can move up a little bit. So there's two bars that hold right here to hold the antennas down, this bottom segment that come in the Lite kit. I ended up taking those out. Well, actually, I never got it all the way mounted with those bars. It was just so cumbersome to have those little tiny pieces kind of falling out of here and trying to get a screw through this outside plastic, through that mount, and then down into the O3 as well. So I ended up doing this mounting without that. If I were able to do this the way I think it was intended, that would have pushed it up a touch, which probably, where to go, it probably would have given me access back to my USB port, as well as just flatten this bottom side out. Sorry, I had that angled down. So I think if we shove this all up a little bit, that gives me access to our SD card slot, as well as just flattens this bottom out so that it sits nice and flat, and it will come to rest on those 4 points that as it was designed. But the way I have it built, it's not going to work out that way, and I don't have access to my SD card slot. So a quick once over of this category, and by I say category, I mentioned it previously: Pavo Pico, Mobula 8, all with the O3s, the FlyLens85, as well as the Defender 16. Defender 16 and kind of the Pavo Pico are at a disadvantage because they're not running quite 2-inch props. They're close, but not quite. And so this will be just a quick breakdown. If you think a longer format breakdown or comparison of, my nose really itches right now, of these, please let me know. I don't know if I don't know. I would probably need some help as far as what you're looking for to help me understand what a longer form comparison of these might be. But I think if you want the absolute smallest, then you're looking at the Pavo Pico. But it's probably also one of the least durable as far as its prop protection goes, and possibly the O3 mount as well. If you're wanting the next smallest, but probably pretty dang durable, even though I kind of have some damage on mine, you're looking at the iFlight Defender 16. Because I did some terrible things to this, and it still will fly. It still is operating. I broke one light as well as the frame, but I'm in the process of repairing the frame with some glue right now. So probably the most durable. If you're looking for one that's the most fun to fly, you're probably looking at these two, in my opinion. The Mobula 803, as well as the one I'm reviewing currently in this video, the FlyLens85. And I think, for me, it's going to be the FlyLens85. It's, okay, when I looked at it, hopefully you've already made your decision on what you think of this quad. Hopefully. I thought this had the most stable footage of all of them. So when I was flying inside or outside, I thought it had the best footage as far as the stability goes. I also think, because of how this is mounted versus how this and the Pavo Pico are mounted, that it's probably going to protect our O3 the best. This is very proud. Oftentimes we'll have, it's right up top, we fly forward, it's going to wang into this and possibly just strip it right off the top, maybe, versus this is kind of buried, it's down below. If we're flying forward, we probably won't catch it all that much. We will probably hit this area first. Yes, the camera is just as proud and just as out there as the others go, but hopefully, with the battery on top and our prop protection here, we decrease the chances. But this had the best flight footage. I think it has the a probability that it will protect our O3 the most, if we can say that, and it's the most fun to fly. As far as freestyle flight and getting stable, smooth, flat footage, very capable of being able to fly inside. It was very stable. It's not got a jumpy powertrain on it or anything like that, where I think you would need to decrease motor output or anything like that. I think you just plug in a 2S battery that you've got that fits the holder and go fly it and have a great time. I would recommend that you just buy it with the Lite inside. I think that was tedious, but if it comes down to cost savings, you make your own choices. My recommendation is, if you are going to get this, that if you do get it with the Lite version of the O3, to just get it with it already inside. Then you just plug in the USB and you activate it and you're set to go after binding. That's my recommendation. Save me about an hour, if that's worth any time to you. But that's kind of my overview comparison of this particular category. We may see more coming. I don't have any more currently on my desk. I am actually, probably as you're watching this, on another family trip. But, we're getting closer to those times where we're going to be inside more. Winter is coming, as you could probably tell from some of the leaves on the grass the last few days. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please let me know in the comment section below. I'll have a link to the FlyLens85 down in the video description to FlyWoo's website. If you don't want to do affiliate stuff, just type flywoo.net and then go find it. I'll also add any other resellers that might be adding this to their websites as well, because I think for O3, this is a lot of fun. I appreciate your time. Thanks for watching.